The Serpentine Pavilion is a project devised by Dame Julia Peyton-Jones.
It challenges both architecture and the arts to create something that people can see and use for a very short period during the summer. Every pavilion is meant to push the boundaries of new materials.
Nobody else has really replicated the project that we do to the scale that we do it. So even after all these years, we're still delivering something that's phenomenal but unique.
I'm David Glover. I'm the technical advisor for the Serpentine.
I'm Julie Bennell. I'm the Director of Construction and Special Projects for the Serpentine.
My name's Ted Featonby. I'm the project manager from Stage 1, the construction arm of the team here.
I'm John Leach from AECOM, so I'm project director for the technical advisor and engineering design for the pavilion. Today we're going to talk about three of the pavilions that all of us have been involved in. 2013 pavilion with Sou Foujimoto, 2017 one with Francis Kéré, and 2018 with Frida Escobedo.
Sou Foujimoto's pavilion. It uses steel, it uses perspex, and it uses space and volume to create fundamentally a cloud, which is why it's called the cloud. It's kind of an interesting experiment on how to create that space with a virtual grid. And then that grid creates everything from the seats, the steps, the bigger spaces, and also holds the perspex discs that create the protection for weather.
Francis Kéré's pavilion was originally conceived around the concept of a baobab tree. In his native Burkina Faso, it's where people would congregate. So the whole design was really around a steel and timber tree. Structure was steelwork, had timber inserts and polycarbonate layer on top of that to make it watertight. And then within the space, it was subdivided by a series of these swooping blue timber walls. You can host large events, but also people can just congregate as families. It's a very multifunctional space. Frida's pavilion, there was a number of concepts it was based on. So the materials of the wall were very much geared around a Mexican vernacular. It was the idea of using the mass of the roof tiles to provide shelter, but also that the air can permeate through there and make sure it's cool and comfortable inside. There was also the water feature in the floor.
She was taking reflective ponds on top of a roof, wanted to bring that inside.
And that then reflected the mirror on the ceiling of the roof canopy.
There is a brief and it is very tight. But it's actually not tight in the sense that it's constraining the design. It's about the functionality of what the pavilion needs to achieve. And it has evolved. If you go back and look at the very first pavilions, they would not match today's brief. Sou Foujimoto is a network of steel tubes into which a number of discs were suspended like open tiles. So if the rain hit them, it ran down, ran down, ran down, ran down. That today we couldn't do. A brief is asking for a much tighter, waterproof area.
In the selection process, you're not necessarily selecting a final design. You're selecting kind of a vision that you believe can be delivered. So each year we do mock-ups at stage 1, which are representations of key parts of the build. They have a clear expectation of what they're going to get. We take on board the feedback, and then in theory, the build process is flawless.
It nearly always is flawless. The design over these three were completely different in just about everywhere, from the groundworks upwards.
People choose an architect because they like their family of design. So these are three different families of design. They've got a totally different vernacular, each one of them. Sou was into the very regular, rigid layout. Francis Kéré was more open. He wanted to create a communal space based on spaces in Africa. Frida was going back to Mexico to choose how they naturally cooled buildings and made a wall that gave privacy but breathed.
I think something the three have in common is the initial visualisation models that we saw from the architects were quite representative of the final product, I would say, in these ones. Everybody here is involved from day one. Every meeting, the decision makers are there.
It's got to be led by the decisions we need to get it into the workshop, to get it built, to get it on site, to get AECOM to do the engineering on it, to get the calcs done, to get it to us so we can build it. So it's very fluid and it changes all the time, doesn't it?
There's very few fixed milestones. The main one is the day it opens. It's unique in that sense as well. I mean, building projects can take decades just to come off. This one's got that full cycle within a few months and it has to open.
So to the architect, we're always constantly saying the design process is planning permission, which freezes the concept, detailed design, which has to be done within the confines of the planning permission. You know, that's why Ted's team draw all of this in 3D and own the whole model of the 3D so that you've got no surprises. And that's why we build it off-site. I remember there was a point when we did Sou Foujimoto's.
We actually changed from a very, very dense structure to something that was much more open.
That one, it had to be like built from the inside out. You couldn't like tack it all together because it was all a welded structure. This thing has got to be able to be taken apart, put in a shipping container and shipped to anywhere in the world.
I think a lot of the architects, they're cognizant of the fact that obviously it's been built and procured in the UK. I think Frida especially, there was the Mexican vernacular, but then it was the question of, well, what are roof tiles like in the UK? And then really adapting that to what's available and what's traditional in the UK as well.
That's good design. You're using design to respond to the issue you've got in front of you.
Francis is another one where the vision of the baobab tree and that whole shape and the funnel was clear from the beginning, but actually the walls inside, they just kind of evolved. Initially he was looking at stone, at all sorts of earthy materials. And then we said, well, look, how about timber? And that's when suddenly this blue triangular symbol appeared and that started reflecting itself in the roof. So it transformed the whole thing really, but the vision was still intact.
But it's a prime example of how the design evolves in that period. You select an architect who you believe can rise to the challenge of delivering a pavilion.
What is the hardest part of the build process?
Back in the day, it was getting planning consent, wasn't it? Because we used to go to the wire too much.
We need that initial, that's the direction we're going in, that's what we're physically going to build, and that's the hardest bit to get to that point, for me in any case.
It's balancing the quality and scale as well, isn't it? People want to build bigger, but then as you build bigger, you start to just naturally dilute the quality. What we try to do is distill it down to a small palette of materials, a small number of details. You're focusing on honing those in.
And you can see that in these three projects. If you look carefully, you're not seeing a vast palette of materials.
I think for me, like the happiest moment is when it's opening, but it's the response and reaction of the architect for me, because it's invariably, in my experience, been positive.
It is the press launch and the first opening night when people see it and enjoy it, and then you realise it's all that pain's been worth it.
It's a massive sigh of relief when it's finished, it's built, it's open to the public, and the public enjoy it.
It's never a certainty when we start that everything's going to go smoothly and we're going to open it, is it?
It never goes smoothly. Every year there's always something comes up. It's about somebody going, sitting in the space and enjoying it. Yeah. And if they do that, job done.
Public reacted really well, didn't they, to Sou Foujimoto's pavilion? Just seeing everybody sat up the wall of the pavilion was something to behold, and we hadn't seen it until then.
I think that's one of the nicest things. The best pictures are when the people are using it, and it's a surprise. An unexpected thing was when the wind blew.
The circular
discs just moved, but of course they reflected the light and the sun. It looked like the thing was slightly alive. It elevated it to something else.
And then obviously with Francis Kéré, seeing the rain come in for the first time.
You're almost looking at the weather and say, right, I'm driving up to the Serpentine because I want to see the waterfall work. Yeah. And it really was. It just really poured.
It was beautiful when the rain came into it.
And so again, it animated the space. It gave it something else.
The kids always enjoy it, don't they?
The way the kids interacted with all three of these, actually. You've got one just in terms of climbing over and hiding inside. You've got slides. You've got the water features. It's just an exciting space.
We're currently working on Min Suk Cho from Mass Studies Pavilion, and we're 2/3 of the way there.
It's a case over the next 2 weeks, the actual form of the pavilion will be built. And then last week is the touching up, the getting ready to open.
This year it kind of epitomises the whole pace of everything. We were talking earlier about something that's going to be installed next week. My guys are literally designing that now.
That piece of steel isn't even drawn on the CAD yet. That's got to get drawn, that's got to get built, that's got to get painted, that's got to get transported down here, and then we have to install it.
It's all just in time.